Chapter 19, EC1101 Part 2. I know, there wasn't much of this. That was branded a really bad idea. But despite that, I had to admit that there was something okay about her that made me want to help. Okay, she wasn't a normal pony, but it felt much like she was lost. And I simply couldn't believe the goddess gave a twig about a bounty. I'm damaged cargo, traveling with broken wares and trying to save the wasteland. Where does it say every pony I associate with closely has to be scared, betrayed, crazy, or something else? I wondered aloud. Well, I might have wanted to talk to Glory first. Rampage was the first I came across. She was lying on a stone, resting her chin on top of her hoof claws, looking down at the town. Hey, she said solemnly. So he showed you the clubhouse, huh? Do I still have my old room, or did he turn it into a den? Actually, he gave me the clubhouse, so yeah. You get your old room back, Rampage. I said as I joined on the rock. So, I asked as evenly as I could. She didn't look back and she just said in an even voice, So, did you fucking kill a full Rampage? I asked softly as I looked down the town. Probably. That's what every pony tells me, my hoof marks on the body. You replied, your pink eyes downcast. Then what were you doing with the thorn? I asked, my magic pulling the heavy revolver from my bags if I shot her in the eye fast enough to manage to get some rounds lodged in her brain. Being happy is so hard to understand, she said as she sat up. I love kids. I mean, love them. I look at all this shit, and the one thing that gives me this hope is the fool that might grow up and able to do something about it. I came across some fucker who hurts a kid, I eviscerate him or her. No regrets, no hesitation, because all as fucked up as the wasteland is, nothing makes it worse than what we do to each other. So, what happened then? I don't remember. It was a boring day. We just didn't have any pilgrims, just the usual ponies in town. I went to bed and woke up with the fool beside me, body beaten and neck crushed. I was so mad, so hurt, so everything. A lot of kids stuck up for me, but Priest couldn't. I couldn't either. She hung her head. I know what I remember, but I also remember the sight of her lying there. I still see her even with my eyes closed, even with my eyes gouged out, every second frozen in my mind. I could relate, I really could. Till we figure this out, if I see you alone with a fool, I'm going to take you out. Then I frowned, rolling my eyes as I looked up with the great vasty badness above. Ooh, mistake. Falling up now. I clenched my eyes shut for a moment. Oh? And how are you going to do that? She asked with a little smirk. Well, you were found at a balefire crater, I said as I grinned at her. Yeah, but you don't have a balefire mega spell, she said with a snort and looked at me with a touch of uncertainty. Do you? Give me time. I grinned and she smiled back, maybe with a touch of unease. Hey, it wasn't completely impossible. So, on a totally unrelated note, have you ever heard of alicorns in the wasteland? Alicorns? Here? She sat up. I've heard they're around other parts of Equestria, but Huffington's never had them before. She looked at me suspiciously and gasped, Wait, there's one here, isn't there? She suddenly grinned. Did you make friends with it? I blinked, flushed as her grin grew, and she crackled. Oh, sweet Celestia, Blackjack. Do you have a pet hellhound or something? Maybe you have a radscorpion in a shoebox. Only if you can make friends with something that practically every pony in the wasteland thinks is a monster. I made friends with you, didn't I? Rampage looked at me, slightly less snarky smile, as I went on with the smugness I could muster. You know I could be that I'm just using her. This could all be elaborate ruse. I can do ruse you. I started with a snort and sneezed hard, blasting my hoof with a streamer of snot. Ugh! Rampage smiled sardonically. Right, you're clearly the puppet master. We're all your puppets. She rose to her hooves and looking back at the cottage pitched up the hillside. Well, I guess I should go meet this monster. Don't fight her, Rampage, I warned as sternly as I could, scraping the snot off my hoof onto the rock. She's strange. She's an alicorn. Isn't that required? It's kind of like becoming a Reaper or Steel Ranger. You just have to be off just to make the cut. I know her, I said sharply. Then I sighed as I sat. I just don't know where I know her from. Something about her is familiar. It doesn't make any sense. I just look at her and feel something. You're hopeless, Rampage said with a shake of her head. Fine, I'll play nice. She sways a glittery razor-wire wrapped tail. Ooh, but and Chessmaster Blackjack, you have snot on your butt. I glanced behind me, ears flattening as I glared. It's only because I'm plotting the plots of plotness. As I said, she walked towards the cottage. Just you wait. No pony's gonna see this plot coming. Once I dealt with the boogers on my butt, honestly, I had a cold. Couldn't they cut me a break? I headed into town where I heard the delightful sound of Charity getting murdered. Okay, technically it wasn't delight, but can anybody blame me if I did feel a bit pleased? You're trying to take advantage of me, Charity cried, stood on a stack of crates. I work and I slave, so I tried hard to get the caps for the town. And you want 30 caps for a landmine? She sat hard, bawling, as 20 assorted fools and fillies watched me. Why are you being so mean to me? I'm not trying to take advantage of you, P21 sputtered, red in the face. 20 caps is too low, even 30. He protested as he raised his hooves. Stop crying. I'm trying to do what's fair. 25 caps? 23? You're trying to rob me. You robbed the ponies. How could you be so mean? The unicorn bawled as she rubbed her eyes. P21 wavered, then slumped. Fine, 20 caps. And just like that, tears stopped, and she said happily, Deal. Hopping off the crates, trotted towards her bag, muttering, Stable ponies is so easy. She's not a pony, P21 muttered. She's some kind of bottle cap collecting monstrosity. She'll own the wasteland one day. I agreed solemnly and sat beside him. So, what'd you buy? Believe it or not, these fillies have dug up some decent stuff. I was hoping to hang on some more mines and sell them all, he said as she returned a huge stack of caps and then on the crates. Is that all my caps? All 2,000? You don't trust me? She asked with her eyes going wide with hurt. He smirked and narrowed her eyes. Oh no, you're not getting me with the waterworks this time. And then Charity sighed, a soft little heartbroken catch in her voice. I knew I'd never get away with it. I mean, we try so hard to get ahead here, but I know all too well how tough things are. She turned and started to walk slowly back towards her store. I'll get the rest of 'em. It sounded like he demanded her prized teddy bear or something. Even I looked at him with disdain, and these were our caps. He lowered his head and gave a grunt of defeat. Never mind, he muttered, putting the caps in his saddlebag. Come again? She replied as she and four of the crusaders pushed the cartload of landmines into the post office. You should have seen me the first time. She charged me for a bottle of water she gave as a gift to priest. I replied. I looked at the boxes. So, what'd you buy? Some ammunition, a magazine extender for your 12 gauge, some more dynamite, more for me, and some barley for you and Glory. What about you? I asked as I nudged open the box and pulled out some light black leather armor, a little closer to raider fashion than I liked. A pony could get shot wearing this if she wasn't careful. If I get hit at all, it's because I got noticed. I'll just stay nice and quiet in the background while you three get shot up. That way, it's my own damn fault if something happens to me. I looked at the black leather barding. Well, suppose it'll do till we get to Megamart. I wonder if we can spray paint good guys. Don't shoot us on it. He looked at me with a smirk. Blackjack, that's Glory's barding. I looked at it in shock. P21, she can't wear this. It was ugly. I could only hope it was some sort of disguise or something. It was what she asked for, he replied with a shrug. She wanted something that looked like she could kick tail. Personally, I think it was going to take more than clothes to be able to do that. No, your party's in the other box. I put the black leather aside. Honestly, it looked more like it for sex work in Stable 69 than something Glory should be wearing to stay alive. I levitated that box aside and opened up the metal crate beneath it. Black and blue beauty greeted my eyes. This armor wasn't just reinforced security barding, it was actual combat police armor, like the ones I seen in the back pages of Iron Shard Firearms catalog. Magically treated black ceramic plates on matte blue Kevlar jacket. This was armor for my whole body and couldn't leave my belly exposed. Blue blood couldn't. Okay, not thinking about it. Not thinking about guts spilling out all. I smacked myself hard, as much as alarm as P21. I took a deep breath, trying to will my heart to slow. Sorry, just making sure this wasn't a dream. He looked skeptical as I pulled out the pieces of the blue armor to make the icing perfect. Agaea's security armor had already been printed upon the plates. Oh, I could kiss you, I said to heavy armor. Yeah, please don't, he raising his hoof towards me as I wiggled into the combat armor. Does it fit? I blinked and looked at him. You know what's weird? Bargaining always fits. I have to wonder if there's some kind of one-size-fits-all spell made into these things. Clenching it up under my belly, I had to admit that it was a little heavy, but not as much as the reinforced security barding had been slingshotted. It had a sling for shotguns on the left side, and a loop for a baton would hold my dragon claw on the right. It even had saddlebags with pockets for holding healing and restoration potions as well as chems. As I redistributed my stuff, I told him about the Starhouse. He smiled, then I told him why Rampage hadn't been around town. He stopped smiling and then told him about Lunakai. He seemed more upset than what you Rampage told me. How do you know this goddess thing isn't some kind of trick? I gave her a chance to attack me, and she didn't take it, I replied as I snapped the combat helmet into place. Thankfully, my glasses still covered my faintly glowing eyes. I don't know. She's strange. I want to figure her out. He sighed. Doesn't she like some psychological or emotional problem that you think you can help her with? I sat tapping my hooves in front of me as I flushed. Maybe. Of course she does, as she said, as I rubbed my nose awkwardly, as I said, a little, maybe just a bit. Blackjack, are you trying to turn us into the deadliest band of angsty, whiny ponies to wander the wasteland? Maybe, I replied, as he sighed as the achy face of. What? It could work. Bad ponies could see us coming and go, oh goddesses, no way I want to mess with them because she'll start crying and she'll be suicidal and then she'll blow us all to the moon. I know, I won't want to tangle with that. He tried to suppress his laugh, shaking his head, and then sighed. All right, just please keep on your hooves and make sure this isn't another Lancer or Caprice. This certainly helped sober me up a bit, and passed me the 12-gauge ammo he picked up. Trust me, that gets 11 zebras executed. Not good. Speaking of zebras, I really didn't expect to see Sakashi kick Glory in the face when I encountered the pair. My eyes widened as I went for my dragon claw before a pink pony in my saddlebag bucked me up the side of my head, and I noticed Sakashi wasn't pressing her attack. You are rushing, fallen bird. Do not be in such a hurry to hit me, or you will fail to connect, the zebra said. As Glory picked herself up out of the yellow grass, Sakashi glanced at me, her smile widening before looking back at Glory. The Great Pegasus hadn't noticed me approaching while she was picking herself up out of the grass. Why do you wish for this, fallen bird? You are not a fighter like your friends. Glory shook herself hard. I told you I'm sick of being useless all the time. Glory? Useless? Back in the mansion, I survived only so long as Rampage was around. The second she wasn't, I got stuck in his stove. She said as I started to shake. I couldn't even help Blackjack against Blue Blood. He cut me without even looking back. And I just sat there as he gutted her. I nearly got killed, Glory shouted back. It is a poor fighter who forsakes their strength for weaknesses, though I know very funny stories who just do so, the zebra said with a wistful smile. Perhaps I should write a tale of the fallen bird who wishes to fight like the dogs because she thought her wings are too weak. Her green eyes looked back at Glory. But how would the story end? Glory panted and hung her head. I don't want to hear the stories. I saw what that slut trying to pull. I knew it was Caprice. I didn't tell her. She does everything for me. She saved my life and just stood there as she was dying in front of me on the road. Rampage got her to scalpel, not me. P21 killed Blue Blood, not me. She sat down hard, hanging her head as she started to cry. I can't do anything. You caught me, I said softly as I walked up beside her, taking off the helmet. Damn thing was uncomfortable. Oh my, look. Look at the sun. I believe I owe the Crusaders a story about two friends helping one and the other. Excellent story. Very funny. Remind me to tell you sometime. The zebra said as she turned and trotted away. Such a pity I cannot hear what two friends say to one another. I walked to her and lifted the black spiked barding from the bag. So I guess this isn't some sort of disguise thing, I said as I sat down beside her. She turned her head away from me, and I'm guessing that fallen glory isn't so much about keeping your identity secret as trying to be all tough. I have to be tougher, Blackjack, for you, She flushed as she stood. You do everything. You get shot, blown up, cut up, hunted, and betrayed, and all I do is nothing. I feel like I'm still trapped in the oven, and just waiting for the monster to eat me. Like I can't even live if some pony doesn't even come by to save me, she said as she started to shake. She lifted her hooves and watching them tremble. I can't, I can't, I can't even stop. I did what worked for me. I hugged her. I held her as she quaked my limbs. She wanted to be stronger. She wanted to be better. You help me, Glory. Whether it's with your beam guns or just being good and loyal, you help me. I stroked her mane as she looked into her eyes. Despite Priest's healing magic, the thin scar running from her brow to her cheek, she nearly lost an eye to the strike. She kissed me. It probably was the most awkward kiss in the history of pony kisses. I was so shocked that it barely moved, and she pulls away, her budding hope crumbling in the face of my stupor. I'm sorry. I guess I can't even control myself, she muttered. No, I just didn't know you felt that way. I'm certainly stunned by it, as awkward as the kiss had been. There is no mistaking the emotion behind it. And do you feel the same? She asked in a tiny, hopeful voice, as if honest, and if I was honest, I'd crush her. I don't know how to feel, Glory. I know you like mirrors. You were with her, after all, she said with a flush. I could do that. Oh, goddesses! Gloria's actually tried to proposition me? Caprice was sex, mutual masturbation. She made me feel good, but nothing my own hoof couldn't do for me. We were just using each other, I said as I struggled somehow to defuse the emotional dynamite factory before it all blew up and she was crying. Or worse, I don't want to use you like that, Glory. And crush. She didn't have to say a word. She lowered her head, dropping her gaze. Her shoulders hunched and her front legs rubbed against each other. I see. Sorry. Ugh. What was as annoying as for everyone else when I did it? No, Glory, you didn't have to apologize for anything, I said as I hugged her as platonically as I could. It's just, yeah, I have sex with mirrors and bugs. It's all fun. But you're different. You're special, Glory. And every single pony I've been with was just sex. That's that's all it has ever been. If you were with you. If we were together, I'm afraid it'd be the same. Then you'd stop being my friend. Then you would leave. And I don't want you to leave. So she fidgeted. What now? I sighed and chuckled. I don't have a clue. I'm not a smart pony, remember? Be kind. Right. Now it's something I think about, but what more worried about is you feeling like you're useless. You're not useless, Glory. You're the only pony in the wasteland that has a clue on dealing with raider disease. And you keep me going when I'm doing everything short of falling on my face. Heck, when I'm even falling on my face. I guess so. Though I don't know what good I'll do with the disease. I need a lab and months of work to come up with a treatment. She looked at the black Barney. I'm just sick of seeing you get hurt protecting others when I can't do anything to protect you. Don't worry about it. I'm security. It's part of the job, I said, giving her the easiest going grin I could. She sighed and shook her head sadly. Oh, Blackjack. She was smiling, so why did she feel like I said something wrong thing? I told her about Rampage and Lunakai, and then we were both grateful for changing the topic. Her caution mirrored P-21, but seemed far more interested in the Star House. You say there's actual pictures there from the moon? From the actual moon? Her excitement seems to forget all about the awkward past we stumbled upon. Well, it looked like they were from the moon, and the newspaper she'd kept it seemed like. Why? Does it matter? Well, I thought that the Equestrian space program was just a hoax, just a way to stir up the public, to support during the war. That got axed when it failed to produce weapons or boost morale like it was designed to. When didn't even know if Marigold existed or if the scandal was just a way to program the leaders to wash their hands of a wasted experiment. I mean, the launch center is real enough. I think there's a cool village called Rocket Town. You can see it from the skyport. But I never thought in a million years that those rockets could actually fly. Apparently they did once, I said gladly, glad to see that she hadn't put on the dreadful barding and happy to see that she cheered up a bit. What do a bunch of ghouls want with rockets? Oh, there's some sort of cult or something, planned to fly off to the great beyond or something far of promised land. Since most of the space center is radioactive, we never went there. But Orion's herd is decent enough if you don't mind ghouls. From her shiver, it was clear that there were some ghouls worth minding. Well, let's get you some barding that's actually protective and not something that makes you look like a raider, I said as we head towards the post office. Harpika strolled along with the ghoulfuls in 2 rows behind her, and she gave us a very soft and polite greeting since arriving. The little ghouls had been quite well behaved and seemed too scared to wander off. The world was more like four walls, intimidating concept, and I knew that first hoof. Still, at least the Crusaders were friendly enough to interest both in them and me. A blue colt with a cutie mark, a picture of pouring water, even played with a black and red streaked tail, curiously. Inside the post office, my eyes met Charity's, and we narrowed our gaze in unison. I licked my lips. She chewed slowly on the candy sticking out of the side of her mouth. I walked up to the counter and said to Barty, I want to make an exchange. She neither said a word nor took her eyes from mine nor blinked. She swung the candy cane around and pointed a tip at the sign of the counter that read, All sales are final. Look, I don't like you. You don't like me. I get that, I said as I pulled down my glasses and looked her in the eye. But see that Pegasus back there? That really nice Pegasus? I like her, and I want her to keep her safe. That means dressing her in some bargain that doesn't make her look like a raider, so I want an exchange. She chewed slowly on the end of her peppermint stick. Your friend, she mute? Huh? Mute. Can she talk? Charity demanded. Yeah. Feeble-minded then? The little filly queried. No, but philiophobic? Look. Charity chewed up the rest of her peppermint stick. I'm just trying to figure out if it's for her, why are you doing all the talking? Glory blinked and stepped up past me. Hello, I need better armor than this, I said. She said as she pointed at the black barding. Welcome to Cherries, where we ain't, she said with a quiet smile. You need better barding than this? Well, yes, please, Glory surprised. Something light? Charity walked to herself behind the counter and pulled out something light blue. It had been patched up more than a few times, but it seemed tailored for Pegasi. How's that? A faded patch on the shoulder read, Equestrian Skyguard. She took it and looked over it and back at me and Charity. It's good. How much? I braced myself. We can call it a swap. You need beam guns too, I hear? My butt hit the ground about the same time my jaw. Beam pistols, all right. Saddle rigged. Glory smiled gratefully at the filly and noted the filly put two of the boxy weapons, minus the mouth grips, on top of the barding. 400 caps, I'll even throw some gem cartridges. Glory dug in her saddlebags for the caps. I just gaped. Thank you. And thank you, Blackjack, again for everything. She gave me a little squeal. Oh, I can't wait to rig these on my battle saddle. I just stared at the filly behind the counter. Why? It was all you could say now? Phil looked at me coolly. She needed a deal. You and your friend didn't. You were just after the caps. So I was just after the caps. And that's what Bottle Cap taught me. She said before thumping her hoof on the counter. Now are you going to buy something or am I going to charge you for loitering? 10 caps a minute, starting now. I ran for my wealth. I was pleasantly surprised to find all of them at the Star House. I was more surprised to find that no pony killed each other. Lunakai sat by the stairs while Rampage cleaned out her older room. P21 took priests. Glory was working on attaching her new beam pistol to her battle saddle, and I had to admit she looked a lot better in the Skyguard body than that black monstrosity P21 bought for her. 5 ponies and only 4 bedrooms. Oh dear. I stamped my hooves loudly on the floor. Well, good news, every pony. Rampage peeked out at me. You're pregnant. I blinked and scowled at Sirking Reaper. No! You're drunk? P21 asked as he walked out with a box of priest drawings balanced carefully on his back. You seem pretty happy and more coherent than I anticipated. No, I'm not drunk. Oh, please tell me you're not taking Buck again. I don't know if Priest can heal the damage like Scalpel, Glory fretted. I sighed and screamed with annoyance. I am not pregnant, drunk, or high. I took a deep breath. I'm going on a little trip to get EC1101 decoded. Alone. The three of them took it up as I expected. Trusting the alicorn is bad enough, but now you're going someplace alone, unarmed, and unconscious? What if you're getting sent to paradise? Days might be dead, but Ursery still has the caps to inspire all sorts of trouble. P21 said sharply as he pointed towards the door. I trusted Tsidu to get me there safely and back again. And if I showed up armed with all of you, then she won't even show. Still, the more I thought about it, the more I didn't like it. But maybe there's something we can do. 1 minute. That's how long it took before my brain started screaming at me. The skywagon lifted, and in 1 minute I was certain I was going to die. Everyone thought I was crushed away by that impulse and grew and swelled within me. And while I knew that wasn't going to be sucked into the clouds while being smashed into a paint on the ground, all I could do was scramble for an orb and clutch onto it with my horn. My heart beat faster and faster. I fought to try hard to make the connection, even if I was trapped unconscious oblivion, if the orb was trapped. I wanted to be with Maripony and Big Macintosh. I wanted to be with the Marauders. I wanted to be with Twist and Mandy and Jetstream and Stonewing, and even Doof, if I had to. I wanted to jump insane as if I'd been taking a happy spin inside Deus, Blueblood, or Gorgon, or even Sanguine. I felt a little bit itchy, not in a main sort of itchy, so much as and it's been a good day and no pony shot at me kind of itchy. I was starting to feel a little bit overdue for something bad to happen to me. But the skies were dry and most of the Crusaders and the few adults were getting ready for Rose's funeral in the afternoon. So why was I feeling so jumpy at everything being ordinary? Had I been so stressed for so long that I was starting to anticipate threats that weren't there? Then a skywagon swooped over the town, and before I knew it, my revolver was out. It's the Enclave! They'd finally sent a delivery wagon pulled by a ghoul Pegasus? Absolutely everything. Yes, I do deliveries. Was painted on the side, and I looked at the gun and the sight and lavender filly climbing out the back of the wagon. I found myself starting to shake. Deus was dead, Blueblood was dead, and the Zodiacs hadn't jumped me in a while. And I hadn't yet to find what the monster of the day Sanguine had been waiting in the wings. Just breathe. I'll go get Charity, Ditzy. A small lavender pony with a blonde mane called out as 3 or 4 Crusaders rushed to the wagon to help unload boxes. Slowly, I walked closer, looking at the ghoul. Her mane might be almost gone, and her wings are so much bone, but the googly-eyed expression fit the poster in the post office almost perfectly. Noticing me, she pulled out a piece of chalk from her bags and lifted a slate and hung from her neck. She wrote and lifted the slate and lifted it. Blackjack? Slowly, I trotted closer. That's me. Rubbing it clean, she dug into her bags for a folded piece of paper and passed it to me. I looked at it from her and then folded the note in front of me. Blackjack, I've made arrangements with a person who can assist you with the decryption. She is very secretive, but has always been trustworthy in dealings. However, she operates under some paranoid rules. Ditzy will take you to her and then back to chapel. You'll have to go alone and unarmed. When you reach the building, you have to go into a memory orb, and then you'll be taken to her. Bottle cap. I looked at the note and then at Ditzy. She blinked her offset eyes, gave me what I assumed was supposed to be a reassuring smile. I sighed and then coughed. Okay, so I'm with you then. I had to admit, even trusting a fool like me, there was something could be going on. But in fact, that I was going to find out EC1101 and what Sanguine wanted it for, I had to trust them. I gave the ghoul Pegasus a smile that she happily returned. Okay, I'm going to tell my friends and drop off my stuff. I pointed up to the hillside to the southeast. There is a house where you can pick me up in a little bit. Ditzy looked where I'd pointed and nodded. I quickly trotted away to look for my friend. I was lying in a hospital bed from the beeping machinery, feeling the tubes out of my body. Blissful lethargy filled me. I could barely move as my head and the sensation filled every limb. Everything felt so distant. I couldn't tell who or what I was inside right now. Just that I sprawled on my side on the bed. I just had the feeling that there were a lot of ponies standing outside my field of vision, but I couldn't see them. There was a maroon unicorn buck with a white lab coat stepped into view. A pony truly is a thing of wonder. The arrangement of limbs, the path of nerves, circulation of blood, magic is in our very bodies and souls. It courses through us. It gave me the ability to alter the universe. Gave you flight. His magic reached out and dabbed the cloth at my host's drooling lip. Sadly, for all I wonder, our flesh is limited and our souls are infinite. But this darling war, has offered us an opportunity to expand, explore very possibilities of itself. And you are going to play a role in that. You should be honored, Lance Corporal Stonewing. He said, adjusting his glasses. You should see, you're not the only we're going to mend your flesh, and we're going to enhance it, empower it. He patted you softly. We're going to make you better. And with it, he moved out of my field of sight, his hooves echoing across the tiled floor. The murmuring increased. I don't like this at all. A familiar mare's voice with an edge of tension approached the bed I lay upon. I want to speak to him. The subject is under heavy sedation for the procedure, Fluttershy. He shouldn't be conscious. He shouldn't even be alive. With his spine severed, another mare said with the pink-haired Pegasus stepped in front of my host and lowered her soft blue eyes to meet mine. Her lips curled as I felt her curl mesh. Don't worry, soldier. We're going to fix you up. We're going to make sure you never ever get hurt again. I felt that rasp in my throat that might be conscious. I didn't feel good. Wanted a little of my body. I could sense, felt like it was crawling inside me. Would I've got consent, writing, recording with the mare's familiar voice said softly, and the bright red unicorn mare with a short, white trimmed mane stepped into my vision. She wore magenta glasses with the glittery plastic frames, and she smiled, and she didn't look at all. Dr. Truewood's got other subjects prepared for the mega spell. A glittery red hoofkin rests on Fluttershy's shoulder. We can't really wait any longer. We've already committed. Fluttershy just looked tense. Her eyes were surrounding her by wrinkles. Stonewing made another noise of confusion. Something about this was wrong. We both knew it. Red Mare, they won't use the mega spell on the battlefield, Fluttershy. But we still can use it to keep ponies safe. That is what it's about, keeping ponies safe. And he will be safe, and he'll be able to keep the ponies safe as well. He won't even have to kill zebras anymore. He'll stop them with one look, turn them back with another. Fluttershy looked at me for a moment longer. Her eyes both of sadness and terrible kind of need. A need for something. She wanted this, I realized, but she didn't want to admit it. Couldn't admit it. I could think my host realized it too as he breathed. Harder and faster trying to say anything to stop this. But Fluttershy just backed away and let the nurses and doctors come and gently pull back his sheet and levitating him into the air. I saw jars full of familiar, disgusting rainbow concoctions dripping into a tube, disappearing into my limp hoof. Slowly, I was levitating into the middle of a circle of unicorns. I wasn't alone. Something else floated there as well. Something for a kind of chicken. I noticed the wing, the claws, and the serpentine body. Before my eyes, it was changing, bubbling, melting as if you're made of wax. Careful, the medical buck called out. You don't want to liquefy him too much. Remember the last 4 subjects? And so was my host. I caught a glimpse of his stretching before like wax. I wanted to cry out, but all I could do was rasp as he felt his body return. They said they'd sedate him. They'd lied, or wasn't nearly enough. The sensation he felt, the violation of the creature being pressed into his body. Flesh twisted as the struggle thrashed his freedom inside, and so horribly, the creature felt like it was swarming inside him, as if the creature were in a net trying to escape. And worse, it had a distinct feeling that something happened inside my skull. My eyes crawled as I felt the socket change. Excellent, he blended nicely. I heard the medical box say, right, purge the contaminants and let's see what comes out of the oven. The glow dimmed, and I felt something horrid being expelled from my orifice. Good. Superfluous biological material removed. Everything's going exactly as it should. The buck stomped his hoof eagerly. Wonderful. The fusion mega spell is a success. I dropped to the floor of the colorful ichor, and the fleshy goose slowly turned my head towards the sound of stomping. Maroon unicorn in the lab coat sent this. Meanwhile, Garnett was escorting Fluttershy to the door. I rose my shaky hooves and feeling the body that was no longer my own. I tried to talk around the serpentine tongue. I tried to call it to Fluttershy. I imagined him begging her to turn back. Then, parting glance over her shoulder, Fluttershy left the room with Miss Red Hooves. A nurse stepped in front of him. He seemed to wear Dr. Trueblood, she said as she cried up my host. Then she jerked and gasped the crying pain as her limbs solidified before me. Excellent. Magical traits of the addition transferred intact. The room pointed with the lab coat, actually dancing in glee. The host reared up and smashed the petrified pony into rubble. Screams started as she began to charge through the megaspell chamber. I noticed that I was trying to struggle to the doctor, his bat-like wings fighting for purchase. But then the spells filled his body with lethargy. He collapsed as numbness robbed his strength once more. A sack went over his head. Conjured ropes bound his limbs. You said he'd maintain this safe fence, Doctor. The mayor who shouted out. She returned. Fluttershy almost saw that. The unicorn buck chuckled and like, oh, he did. I'm sure of it. He came right towards me after all. You're sure? Oh yes. Project Chimera is a success. We should need more test subjects to make the process more efficient, explore more combinations, and trace the possibilities. The doctor chuckled from a nearby. I think we should classify this strain as Gorgon. The glittery hooved mare spoke from the right above me. I hope you're right, Doctor. We're trying to procure more combat personnel for the prototypes Luna wants the war resources. We're going to give them to her, though we have to keep billing this as the Ministry of Peace project to keep others distracted. Cloak and dagger intrigues I leave to you, Garnet. Are you going forward our results to Emerald? Of course, Dr. Trueblood. The MAS should be briefed on the personnel of flux-accelerated megaspells, and we're already exploring the possibilities with the other ministries. Are you sure that's wise? Shouldn't the Ministry of Peace maintain exclusivity? Garnet laughed brightly. Oh, Doctor, there wouldn't be much able to get away with nearly as much as I felt magic lift Stonewing's body. The red pony said softly, let's make sure his memory is nice and clean, and then we put him into storage till we're ready to duplicate the process. I felt a horn touch his forehead. The bag and everything swirled away. I felt myself shaking. The memory left me. Gorgon, Project Chimera was Equestria's monster-making program, and Fluttershy had known and been involved. She said that it was better. That wasn't better. That was insane. I swallowed hard and twitched on the ground after Deus's orb. And now Gorgon's, I wasn't sure I'd be able to go into any more orbs for a while. I felt sick at the moment. It was like sticking my hoof in a fire. So what the heck was I now? I slowly opened my eyes and looked around. This was something kind of an office. A fancy one if you looked past the fallen ceiling tiles and rotting floor. Streamers of the water trickled constantly from broken and cracked pipes overhead, and washed over the moldy carpeted and miniature rivers. The emergency lighting still flickered and twitched on and off. The big desk in the room looked just like an overmare's, and it opened the door leading to the office was a stable door, or at least a flimsy, half-size replica of one. This couldn't be a stable, though. No stable had armored windows looking out at the wasteland, as this office did. I walked to the door. It looked like a stable if you had built one with rooms twice as large as normal. No stable had ever been seen in hallways this roomy. I watched the rusty river trickle along the hall and cascading down some stairs, judging by the cracks and the holes in the walls. Clearly, this place was built tougher as a stable either. A ping sounded and one of the replica stable doors in the hall slid open. Okay, once again, I have mentioned how much I really wish I had my EFS and my gun, and my barding, and my friends. I really hate being alone, especially in any place that looks remotely like a stable. Stables are not places for lone ponies. The door opened into an elevator, its walls lined with posters. Stable tech, Voyager to the future, proclaimed one. Save yourself and your family. Sign up today. Read another. Looking at the pictures of 10-story stables with swimming pools and internal gardens, I wondered why I'd never heard of a stable like that. 99 must have been opted about those features, and I knew maybe I had. Maybe stables had been built, perhaps stables 1, 2, and 3 have been paradises. But towards the end, they had replacement underground greenhouses with replica equipment out of simple need for expansion. I stepped into the elevator doors, slid closed behind me, and the car started descending. As long as I kept my eyes on the walls, I didn't have to feel panic building. Too much. 10 seconds later, the elevator slowed and the car doors opened. I stepped into the hall, almost completely sealed rubble. One door remained clear, written on it in chipped white paint, the words "Stable Tech R&D." The few on the other doors I could see were open and led to the rooms that were locked, so damaged that they might collapse on me if I might as well sneeze in the general area. I really hoped that I would have to try them. The door slid open in front of me. I stepped into a catwalk, on a floor covered in work tables. I picked up slowly around the edge of the stairs and looked down on the work floor. Entire walls almost covered with glowing monitor screens. Looking up at the upper left, I saw a flickering label over a slowly rotating design. Stable 1, completed. Next to it was an even larger design. Stable 2, completed. And the next screen of monitors were dead. A few marked delayed or redesigned, but a few majorities were complete. I saw the sprawl layout of Stable 89 with all its many storage areas and labs. It looked similar to 90 and 91. Then I frowned as I looked at Stable 90, complete. This stable is not finished. Buttercup had written, a mistake or something else had happened. I smiled at the sight of 99, despite I never realized how big it actually was. The 4-story habitation blocks and the central stairs linking to the atrium living quarters, utility storage to maintenance reactor. It's a bit like a tree, curiously, and it's always completely fucked up. Over the workstation were more stables designed flickering and rotating silently on their screens. Raptor Hydro Stable resembled dozens of bubbles. It was supposed to go underwater. Sea Star Hydro Stable looked like it was more than some sort of floating island. Celestia 1 Astrostrobel had a rotating wheel like a wagon and a long sweeping wing, while Luna 1 Astrostrobel didn't appear to be much different from the big stable 2. Big Macintosh Mega Spell Stable was positively huge, looking to have been designed to hold thousands instead of hundreds. Scootaloo Aereo Stable seemed more like a design for a cloud dweller while Pinkie Pie Aereo Stable hung from huge balloons. There were other designs that even seemed less concrete, along with opposite walls monitored show the evolution of the terminals and the pitbucks. The first room sees monitors, the desk size, and the mainframes we run across. The personal information processor, Alpha, appeared in the form of the pitbuck, so large that it covered the entire pony. The terminals were small enough to fit on a desk. Beta pitbucks covered most of the limb and still had a backpack. After that, the terminal became more simplified and redefined. I could see the difference between standard hardened and reinforced terminals. The difference between the pitbucks were far obvious. Gamma models were what I had on my hoof, slightly bulkier from the slightly bulkier 2000, and more compact than 3000. There was the Delta model, 2, that seemed even simpler and more flimsy than the rest of the terminals, shrinking my hoof size contracted nodes. I wonder if eventually the two would merge. Well, would have merged if things hadn't blown up. There weren't any exits on the first floor, so I climbed back up to the catwalk. Most offices on the catwalk were locked and dark, but one lit by the green glow of a terminal. I made my way to the door. The office was cluttered as in a absent-minded way. There were wadded-up designs piled high in the wastebaskets. Drawing tape to every available surface and scale model dangling from the ceiling of fishing lines. A full-size robotic pony stood in one corner, looking forlorn and abandoned. There were pictures of things and other technology too. 3 fillies wearing blue and gold capes piled on top of each other, laughing at the camera. The trio, a bit older, proudly displaying their cutie marks. I struck, however. The 3 looked again, this time mature mares. Apparently, they enjoyed the night out together. They were pictures of Applejack and one of Big Macintosh, and the third an elderly green pony. The terminal had only one thing on the screen: area of inquiry. It looks like at the keys, so I'd be told EC1101. I was looking for the blinking cursor when flickered and flashed behind me and spun reflexively, trying to ready the weapon that wasn't there. The light was coming. The light stood for the more concrete until a flickering image of young Apple Bloom stood in front of me, identical to the filly pictures for me, luminous glow. Looking at the strange glowing earth pony, I relaxed a bit, but not much. Hello? Heard you got yourself a puzzle on your hoof, the filly said as she trotted towards me. Well, I never got a puzzle solving cutie mark, but most folks figured I was clever pony. If you don't mind, what the heck are you? I asked in shock. Who are you? She gave a smile. Well, that's the million big question, ain't it? Maybe I'm a pony running things from a terminal somewhere, helping you out. Maybe I'm just a machine doing what I'm programmed to. Or maybe I'm Apple Bloom. You can call me applebot. Then she looked at my blackened pit buck, her eyes wide in shock. Land sakes, how'd you fry 3000? They're supposed to last forever. Lightning? Lightning? You got struck by lightning? I nodded weakly. She rubbed her mouth as she looked at the blackened electronics and then shrugged. Well, that'll do it. I guess you'll be needing a new one. So the data's not lost? I asked weirdly as 2 mechanical hands, if you could, call the clusters of tools, rose from the robot's shoulders. The tools at the end fingers began to deftly remove my pit buck. The little pony smirked. Oh, it takes a lot more than that to kill your data. To do something like that, you need to destroy Pimlick outright. And probably you too. Nah, you just fried the interface. But you gotta admit, it's still pretty impressive. He set the device on the table and trotted over to a metal cabinet. Now, 3000, 3000. Nope, for sure 3000. But you're gonna have to make do with the Delta model. A Delta? I asked as I watched the sleek, polished silver pit buck. I looked at the end at my more bulky model. Do you have anything a little bit heavier? The little apple bloom cocked her eyebrow at me. Well, it's just that I hit ponies with them. You hit them? She clicked her tongue in a sad touch of playful sarcasm. That ain't no way to treat sensitive electronics. She replaced the flimsy silver one and dug around a bit. Aha! Here we go. She pulled out the matte black pit buck that seemed marginally more bulky, but only barely. Was designed this one for the shadow bolts, but it never made it into mass production. Setting my ult 3000, the robotic hands removed the covering as I watched. So, how's Table 99 holding up? Table 99, I put a whole lot of new stuff in there. Was wondering if it worked out or not. Well, it's still working, I mean. I hear Rivets complain about leaking pipes, but the recycle still works. Well, that's good to hear. I was a little worried about the reprocessing. I mean, I know the purifies and remixes waste. I had a sample chip myself. So, is there something off about it? Yeah, especially when you have to reprocess a buck after being removed from the breeding population. The robot froze as she finished removing the case. She looked back at me.
What did you say? You do what now?
Put dead ponies in the reprocessor. I blinked at her shocked and disgusted expression. What, that's what we're supposed to do, right?
Maybe if you're on a high protein diet.
She said, still looking a little shaken.
Your processors weren't made for that though. That's why I installed incinerators.
She gave a disgusted little shiver.
And breeding what now?
Well, in Stable 99, and I explained the whole breeding process as the little apple bloom's mechanical armatures carefully removes a flat, glowing gem plate. It looked like a wafer of pure diamond with a magical glyph in the center. She placed it into the new pit buck and deftly screwed it into place.
You what?
Was Applebot's response to my explanation. Well, that's what we're supposed to do. Didn't Stable-Tech set it up that way? I said defensively. The robot shook her head slowly, the magical hologram flickering slightly as it turned back to the pit buck. Then there was a hiss in the pit buck, and a mare's voice sounded from my new pit buck. Hi there, this is Scootaloo, and you know what? I'm sick of these recordings. I'm just fucking sick of them. I can't do it. Fuck, the mare yelled. How did these things get so messed up? I had to do it all over, 100 of these. Damn it. I'm just so sick of it all. There was a teary sniff. To hell with it. Okay, again. I'm Scootaloo, VP of Stable Tech. You got yourself a heck of a stable. We've made it as good as you could. You probably noticed that you don't have any orchards or food in the warehouses, right? Well, that's because the machines in 99 recycle all your waste, purify it, mix it. Ugh. You know what? Don't think about it, okay? Just don't. It's gross, no matter how you slice it. I mean, it just means that you won't run out of food anytime soon. So long, she continued sharply, as you keep the population stable, you should have enough conceptive for at least 2 centuries. You at least need to keep one offspring per pony policy. Keep the stable overmare. There's other stuff here too, but you know what? I don't care anymore. I don't care. Do what you have to do to keep the stable to survive. And you better do better than we did. Apple Bloom, you two are doing the next ones. Got it? I need a fucking drink. 99? Fuck. 99. The voice cut off.
Those are all the instructions given.
Applebot said.
There were some additional plans, but the fact is that 99 we left it largely up to the ponies to decide what they would do. I mean, the only restriction 101 had was it was Earth ponies only. Who knows what they cooked up?
She gave a soft sigh.
Poor Scootaloo. It wasn't fair to her, but she was the only one who recorded those messages. I got tongue-tied. Sweetie Belle just bawled.
But how'd we go from that to... I just stared at the enormity of it. It had been some messed up stable tech rule or bylaw. It was us. We'd created the nightmare P21. And I escaped from. I swallowed hard and looked at the hologram wrapped robot. Are you really Apple Bloom?
Maybe, or maybe just a copy of her.
She said as she finished up and powered up the new black pit buck.
Hard to say, really, but there's some truth to say that you shouldn't use yourself as a test subject. It just ain't healthy.
She said as the robot's hand slipped the device around my hoof.
There you go, complete with fully functional broadcaster and terminal interface.
At my blank look, she rolled her eyes and explained.
Basically, it lets you contact terminals through your pitbuck if you have a signal source recorded.
She looked down at my pit buck.
So, EC1101 still exists.
I felt a shiver go down my spine. EC1101? What the hell is it? Applebot smiled sadly up at me.
The keys to the magical kingdom of Equestria, Blackjack. Once upon a time, Equestria had been ruled by two princesses. The older princess ruled because, quite honestly, she was immortal and magical. There wasn't a civil war or crisis of succession because the princesses couldn't die of old age. Celestia had 1,000 years of experience, and the kingdom was familiar with her leadership. She wasn't a tyrant. She didn't have to be a tyrant. The status quo was so comfortable and predictable, Equestria simply accepted her role. Beneath her was a hierarchy of lesser nobles tasked with administrating the smaller day-to-day local concerns and maintaining the order of things. Equestria had 1,000 years of near social stasis. Of course, the return of Nightmare Moon and Princess Luna disturbed all that. It wasn't big at first, but the presence of the two princesses prompted a change in the attitude across the kingdom. There were many reasons for Celestia to continue on, but what if the possibilities were considered? New avenues thought of opened up, and social fabric had been altered in its paradigm. Magic became arcane science. Nobles found their stations questioned and challenged. Businesses arose. Trade with outsiders, both good and ideas, exploded. New life and goods. But when the war came, a war such as Equestria could not have known, and like so many things, ponies were not prepared for its novelty. The violence tore Equestria, and fear and desperation ripped its underpinnings. Some stress pushed science and magic further than ever dreamed. Others tore ponies down, but through it all went ironclad beliefs that whether under Celestia or Luna's, a princess would rule. Shattered Hoof Ridge changed all that. Only Big Macintosh sacrifice prevented Equestria from discovering the hard way on how integral princesses were to this country's collective psyche. The death of a soldier was tragic, but the idea of losing one's fundamental parts of the kingdom proved unbearable. Its introduced insidious question, would Equestria do if the princesses were killed? EC1101. Equestrian Command 1101 isn't a computer file. Applebot explained softly as her mechanical hands withdrew into her shoulders. It's a delayed trigger megaspell designed to transfer control of the country's crucial systems from the princesses to another individual in an event of both princesses' death. It was supposed to be used as a terminal network. It would travel from terminal to terminal, node to node, to seek out its next designated target. So where's the target? I asked just before the realization hit me. The Ministry Mares, of course. Yes, first Twilight Sparkle, then Applejack, then Rainbow Dash, then Fluttershy, then Rarity, and finally Pinkie Pie. The spell would locate them all, bestow upon them and the authority to run the country, and give them full control over countless information, magic, and technological systems that ran Equestria. If it failed to do that, then it would seek out the heads of the armed services, the courts, the official interministry affairs, or the descendants of any of its targets. Unfortunately, it seems like the spell could not make contact with anybody. So how did it end up in Stable 99? Sheer size. Unfortunately, the fact that it could or wasn't triggered till the fall of Canterlot, which took far longer to die than the rest of Equestria. Most nodes handle small packets of magical information. EC1101 was not small. It was highly complex, a behemoth of spells, and unlike normal files, it had only a few networks that could move it through swiftly. The Balefire bombs shattered those networks. The last jump it made, I suspect, was from the Ministry of Morale hub in Manhattan, just prior to or during the city's destruction. The stable text link between Stable 99 and the west of Equestria severed, and then the surrounding trapped Stable 99 systems. So I sanguine after it now. The Ministry Mares were all dead. Gee, what a rosy thought that was, Blackjack. Correct. None of the Ministry Mares had offsprings, and the likelihood of locating a descendant of the military and judicial branch is minuscule. The spell might recognize Google, but I'm skeptical. Still, it is the key, and I think some pony with the right skill might be able to use to force an override or something, maybe turn off a security system and break into the database. The fit would be rather rough, though, and would probably work on 2 or 3 times before the spell got completely wrecked. An idea struck me. Have you ever heard of something called Project Chimera? She thoughtfully rolled her eyes as she looked at the ceiling. There, found an index. Project Chimera. OIA project, sealed by royal command.
Her flickering eyes widen.
Holy smokes, sealed by royal command?
What's that mean?
It means that Luna personally put her hoof down and killed the project. A lot of ponies involved. Probably went to jail, too.
Could EC1101, well, open up again? My mane crept on my neck as the little robot blinked, thought, and then nodded.
Probably. If the princess locked it, some pony with princess's access privileges would be able to unlock it.
How about Project Eternity?
Project Eternity, OIA project, sealed by royal command.
Project Redoubt?
Project Redoubt, OIA project, sealed by royal command.
Then she blinked in shock.
Well now, looks like Luna was cleaning house at the OIA. I wonder why.
Me too, I frowned as I rubbed my nose with my hoof. Are there any other OIA programs that were shut down by Royal Command?
I don't. Wait. I've got Project Steel Pony, Project Party Pooper, Project Starfall, Project Horizons.
Applebot paused, then flickered Robo-Pony frowned in consideration.
You want something else that's weird? They were all shut down the same day, a month before the bombs fell.
I heard soft rustle of cards as I thought about those names. OIA, Office of Interministry Affairs, right? Who were they?
Oh, them? Not much. They act like liaisons between Stapletech and ministries, other than the NWT.
She said with a dismissive shrug.
A bunch of overworked ponies who were really busy managing the gaps between the ministries.
What do you mean by the gaps between the ministries? I asked with a little frown.
Because that's what the OIA did. Say there was some pony in the MAS that had no idea they wanted to work out with the MOP. The OIA would pass the idea to someone in the MOP. They set up things for the two ministries to work them out, make bridges between the ministries and fill the gaps. Or say an inventor came up with a new talisman, but both the MWT and the MAS wanted dibs on it. The OIA would work things out so that every pony had access without wasting time fighting and arguing. Some ponies like to call it Spike's ministry, but I'm not sure if he was involved.
I sighed, feeling nasty, though. Why would they make a monster then? That seemed to surprise her, and I explained Gorgon's memory orb.
That's very disturbing. But while I've got no doubt the OIA might set up something like that, it probably originated with the Ministry of Peace. While most delegates about helping Equestria, and even the enemies were silent ponies, though they were deciding creepy.
I sighed, looking at the pit buck with a little grunt. Well, damn. As interesting as this all was, I have to admit, now that I know what it is, I still don't know what to do with it. I tapped the screen showing the file name with a hoof. I mean, it doesn't tell me who Sanguine is working for, or how to stop him. I frowned at her. Would he be able to use EC1101 to make more muster ponies?
If that's what Chimera was for, I suppose.
Applebot said thoughtfully. So much for just giving the damn thing up. Could I just destroy it? That made her pause.
I suppose. Sure. Not even your pitbuck spellmakers will survive something like a balefire blast.
Applebot replied and felt staggered. That's what it would take.
But are you sure you want to? You don't know who those other projects are who you might be able to help.
Great. Guilt tripped me with that. I just wish I could find some offspring of Applejack or Pinkie Pie and then shove it in their lap. And then what? I started finding with the new pit buck, checking some of its features. The EFS was blue instead of amber. That was at least 20% cooler.
Yeah, unless you're some long-lost descendant of Twilight Sparkle, it's not much good to you.
She said, looking sympathetic.
If you want my advice, EC1101 was en route somewhere when it was stuck in stable 99. If you can get to where it was going, then you might find some answers about what's going on and who's really after it.
So, how do I do that?
Oh, that's easy. Go back to whatever terminal you got EC1101 from and see which terminal is going to next. Go to that terminal, repeat the process till the loading is finished.
Go back? I muttered weakly, my eyes widening, my mane suddenly feeling very scratchy indeed. Back to stable 99. I had to go back. I wasn't exactly sure about Applebot's suggestion of following the routing, but it was all I had at the moment. Above all that, though, was the fact that stable 99 was a chapter I needed to close. I knew now that they were doing was wrong. I had the guns and the friends to make sure it was stopped for good. Well, it's a plan at least, I said, smiling.
Good. I think that whatever you do, you should track that.
And then there was a ping, a crackle as the illusion wrapping around Applebot flickered and the small robot keeled over. With a clatter, it sparked and the illusion disappeared. Then automatic fire ripped through the windows of Applebloom's office and I fell onto my side and the robot gave me a buzz and the light in its eye went out. Gonna try to take me alive! I shouted at the top of my lungs as the broken glass settled over me. A rock flew the shattered window and bounced off the top of my head, making me curl up as it landed in front of me. An apple-shaped rock, with a brilliant bright red band around the middle. Reflexively, I threw it back through the window as I dove for cover under Applebloom's desk. The grenade erupted into a sheet of flame, splashed over the desk, and the ponies immediately outside grabbed Applebloom's terminal and yanked it hard, snapping its cord. Floating the terminal in front of me, I raced out of the burning office onto the catwalks. One of the Earth ponies was scrambling and trying to extinguish her armor and trying to bring her automatic pistol to bear on me at the same time. Another started taking shots that sparked the ping off the terminal housing. I looked down and toggled sats with a thought. In that moment of accelerated time, my horn flashed thrice, and her head transformed to gray, red, and white pulp. Sweet goddesses, how I love sats! Now, I had a gun and a terminal. I lifted the former and the heavied the latter, and at the mare with similar 10mm automatic. She dodged away as I raised the pistol and took aim, and carefully planted a quarter bullet into her face and throat. There were still a lot more red bars in my cool blue EFS. Though, as I swept up her gun, I wish I had time to collect the bullets. Ares! She's up here! Shouted a Colt from the far side of the lab. The catwalk was clear, and I raced for the door. Suddenly, a plume of fire sprayed up through the grate and swept towards me. Burning office behind me, plume of flame, and the front office was going on the way down. I leaped over the catwalk railing. My tail, a little too late to avoid the spray of flame, trailed smoke. I landed my legs giving a resounding pop as something gave way. I rolled and slid across the grimy floor, ending up underneath a work table. I heard a ping of a grenade bouncing off the top with a rattling further away and detonating with a fiery Something walked ominously, slow and heavy steps, the rest were moving fast. One slid across the floor with a vicious look in her eye. Our gazes met, and her jaws worked the trigger. My horn was faster and popped the ejected clip. They didn't stop a 10mm round from in the chamber from thumping immediately into my front leg. But nothing she could do to prevent me from filling her with a half a dozen rounds from both guns. Struggling to my feet, I snatched up her clip in my mouth and kept my head low as I could, and I limped as fast as I could, hoping that the smoking flame filling the room would screen my movements. A wall of flame sprayed across my path, cutting off the stairs back to the catwalk. I backpedaled from the heat so quickly that I fell over. I looked at the source of the flame. The Steel Ranger power armor had been spray painted a brilliant cherry red with a fireball on the flank. A heavy incinerator was mounted on one side of the armor, and a grenade launcher would protrude from the other. Shit, I thought I was dealing with a flaming deluge. And worse, I doubted these bullets were going to cut it. I hobbled my way forward as the two other ponies ran around to cut me off and finish me. I screamed around the clip with my jaws as I strafed the pair.
Then I body slammed into one, collapsing into a tangle of limbs. The other mare was so eager to finish me off, she sprayed bullets into her teammate. I held the corpse over my body as the meat shield, hissing in pain as two more holes opened up in me. My head started to spin. Be strong, a little orange pony told me. I had ejected the spent clip and slammed the one in my mouth home, narrowing my eyes as they clutched the body over them like a macabre blanket. She had no such cover, and my bullets ranked across her until she finally fell. I swallowed hard, fighting the urge to vomit. I could hear Ares closer as I saw the two red bars remaining. Still, I had desperately digging through the bodies. I found two cloudy gray potions grims. They tasted like sour milk, and they didn't have much for injuries. The medics got far more, letting me haul myself to my hooves.
She's getting up. Move to your left, the Colt called out, and I reversed as grenades clattered in that direction, filling the air with more patches of crackling magenta fire. There was a hiss from a feebly glowing chalice that sprayed cones of water. I doubt it would be enough to fight the kind of blaze that Ares was creating, but it washed out some of the smoke, and it made it easier for me to think. The Colt was tracking me somehow. Not with an EFS. I was pretty sure the power armor had something like that. This was something giving him distance that he needed. I ran. Okay, limped horribly with my leg, threatening to make me fall flat on my face as one wrong step in the direction of the door again. As I approached the stairs of the catwalk, I saw a blue unicorn colt with a picture cutie mark from Chapel looking down at me, his strange little device between his hooves. He calmly levitated the revolver and started blasting away at me. Falling my face into the slippery pool of cold water, the only way I could keep from eating some more rounds of lead, I rolled over and pointed the pistol at his face, but he just smirked with certainty and fired again. Damn it! Sure he was a Colt, but he was shooting at me. Why couldn't I blow him away for that? I scrabbled through the water as his bullets took the tip of my ear off. The Med-X wasn't enough to fully keep the edge off the pain as I staggered ahead of Ares and out of the blue coast field of fire. I just need a healing potion and to stop bleeding, and for the world to stop spinning. I limped along in a circuit. Ares had swapped fragmentation grenades now, lobbing them with infuriating accuracy. My tail was both ragged and scorched now, and my butt was laced with superficial fire holes from the chunks of shrapnel. The second I slowed down even just a little, I was toast. I wondered if they were toying me for Gemini and Taurus. Wait, my tail! I took cover behind an overturned workbench and ran my hooves and magic through the single tail. Then I felt a small ball the size of a corn puff almost as the light was clipped to my tail. It had a small blinking light, a tracking device. Good, I was so glad I wasn't going to have to yell at Ditzy or Bottle Cap. Still, what good did it even do to me against that power armor? Eventually, I'd bleed out or burn up, even if I crushed the thing. When I needed was some way to disable Ares with one of the P-21 spark grenades. Some way. I looked at the rows of stable monitors and the cables hanging from behind them. Left, 40 feet, now! The Colt yelled as Ares turned and fired another shot with a grenade launcher. To the right, I scrambled on top of the closest workbench and prayed. The grenade exploded and monitors flickering wildly as the power cables severed the wires, dropping into the churning water. The resounding pop and the small ozone, the power armor's weapons dropped as the crackle went on, and then everything went dark. Slowly, as I walked through the stairs and looked up at the Colt, now he was smiling. Now smile wasn't nearly so cocky. Ares! She's coming! In my mutant gaze, I could see him clearly. I walked through the darkness towards him and tossed the gun aside. He gave me a desperate giggle and a hiccup as he levitated his revolver to point at me. My horn shoved the barrel aside as he fired. He reclaimed it again and shoved the barrel in the other direction. The bullet passed so close beside me I could feel it. I stared at him in the eyes. He pressed the hot tip of the gun to my forehead. You won't kill me. I'm a kid. I'm just a Colt. You won't. Please don't. As he scrambled back, as he saw his strange cutie mark was peeling away, a cutie mark decal. His flank was blank beneath it. He pulled the trigger, but there was no recoil as my magic gripped the hammer before release of the fire. Now he shook in terror. His levitated weapon jerked ineffectively. "You're right, you were just a colt," I said in a low, soft grin, spreading. "And I'm not an executioner." Then I grabbed him in my bloody hooves and twisted him sitting atop the stairs and pulling him across my lap. I magic flung the weapon from his grasp. He wailed as I pinned his head with one hoof and spanked his ass as hard as I could, grunting with a smack. "Do not shoot the nice security pony!" Then I shoved him away from me and limped towards the elevator, leaving him sniffling behind me. From depths of the power armor came a mare's tentative. Hello?" As I limped into the door. I made my way back up to the office. I'd awoken it. I found my way up to the roof, Ditsy Doo waiting nervously with Silver Bells. Each of my friends, who technically hadn't come with me to the meeting, each stood the different corners of the building. Well, three were watching. Rampage spat loogies over the edge. As the door slammed shut behind me, Rampage looked up and noted the new holes in me. Her face split into a grin. "So, run into any trouble?" My smoldering look gave them the answer. "Really, it was my own damn fault," I said. "Wait on the roof and keep an eye out for trouble." Not to say that I felt the 10 feet behind me and keep quiet. The Zodiacs had gotten in some other way, and my friends had been up here the whole time. I flopped onto my side and dug out the orb, and I just got ready for the flight back. Jetstream. The memories that flowed from the orb weren't the same as I was used to. Somehow, they were concentrated and accelerated, coming in flashes and little insight. Jetstream meeting Stonewing in the summer flight camp, the pair leading to fly together. She was with ease, and he was difficult. There was a race between them and some rivals, but thunderstorms brew. A gust of wind blew all around them into a mountainside, with the exception of Jetstream. She flies faster than ever before. Stonewing, slowest flyer in all of Equestria, proves himself also the strongest as he carries the 3 Pegasus across the finish line on his back. She got her windy cutie mark. He's gotten granite wings. The pair of older seeing wonderbolts performed the summer sun celebration. A cyan Pegasus with a rainbow mane talks about wanting to join the team. He can't take his eyes off her. Jetstream can't take her eyes off him. They were sitting together in his home in a city of clouds, reading about the rescue attempt and the death of so many wonderbolts together. He wondered about the mare. She just sighed and looked away. The meeting behind the weather factories, he was telling he was going to a list. She tried to talk him out of it. Then he showed the basic training together. Stonewing lifts Big Macintosh on his back. He gets the applause for the first time in his life. She smiles so happy for him. They fly in their first battle together. Griffin and Mercs can't resist slower flyers, but their rifles can't drop him. She picks them off one by one with lightning passes. After the battle, she receives a commendation from the captain, Cupcake. She tries to give credit to Stonewing. He just shakes his head and smiles and limps away to the medic. Dinner on board with the Marauders, Doof challenges Stonewing to a garlic eating contest. They eat bulb after bulb. Doof goes red, then green, then he loses. Stonewing eats 3 more bulbs. Jetstream gives him a victory kiss anyways. They watch the fireworks over the bay, her head resting on his firm shoulder. Another mission. She hit and spiraled down. Zebra Ninja Warriors swarm in. Stonewing lands among them like an avalanche. A bayonet catches him in the throat, ripping it open. His wonderful bass voice goes silent forever. He doesn't fall, standing over her till the rest of the Marauders extract him. A dinner alone on a mountaintop. She's going to do it. He's ready. She's going to tell him. She's going to let him. But there's an explosion in the village below, and he's flying away to help. She watches him realize how alone she'd been before flying after him. The bombing at Prance. She tries to get him alone. She tries to tell him how she feels. He listens. He smiles. He shakes his head and kisses her forehead. He breaks her heart gently as possible. She's grateful for the bomb. An argument. She wants to leave. he wants to re-enlist. She can't see the reason. He just shakes his head, and she had enough fighting. He's not done yet. She signs the papers to stay another year. They watch the rocket rise on the pillar of fire. Stonewing grins like an eager colt. She smiles and can't help herself. She rests her head on his shoulders again, hoping he can't feel her tears. Brimstones fall. She sees the sniper. She starts to open her mouth. The bullet strikes him in the neck, and he falls like a brick wrapped in a dirty sheet. She flies to save him, to repay him, but the medics load him onto an evacuation wagon with a tag around his hoof. In argument, Big Macintosh tells her to be strong. Tells her that it's alright. Tells her that the war can't last forever. Tells her to remember Stonewing and all they've done together. She cries out and strikes him. She hits him again and again as the rest of the squad looks. She sits alone on a cloud. Vanity teleports to her. She tells him what she needs. He tells her it's a mistake. She asks one more. He kisses her cheek softly and tells her he understands. Her eyes widen as he touches her horn to break her brow into tears away. I awoke on the floor of the wagon, my guts and inner ears telling me we were still flying. Fortunately, my brain had been through enough that instead of screaming incoherently, I just lay there and groaned. Try to relax, Blackjack. We're almost to chapel, he joined I said quietly as he stroked my striped mane. Guess you weren't much help after all. It was my plan. Not your fault, I replied with a groan. What was wrong with her? The young filly asked as she looked down at me. Just not good with a wide open place, I groaned softly. Too many memories. Too Pinkie Pie, Stonewing, Jetstream. The little filly suddenly looked curious. A memory of Pinkie Pie? What was it about? Some pony tried to bomb a party she was at. Talking helped a little. Took my mind off of falling. Hurt. Spew, mother discussed the filly. I'm not cleaning that up. Don't worry about it, Silver Bell, Rampage said as she tossed the dirty rag over the puddle. I tried to go back into Jetstream's rapid fire memories, but it was useless now. My horn refused to make the connection. And I looked over at Rampage and saw she'd removed her steel barding once more. Lunakai had to carry it so the cart wouldn't be overloaded. The striped pony had no problem looking out, but I suppose that it was because she had felt... Ugh. My eyes drifted further down her flank, and then I froze. A cutie mark with the pony's most in itself and ultimate expression of who and what they were. That had been as far as I got in the lecture before passing out from boredom. But I'd had a gist of it. Cutie marks mattered. So what was the meaning of a cutie mark of the teddy bear having its rotten guts torn out by barbs of rusting metal spouting from the candy, while the bear itself ripped at a distorted zebra glyph of a skull, while fleshy tendrils pulled and shredded at the normal smooth lines that the black lightning struck a shattered wine glass while you were in the background swirling like a spiral like in a whirlpool. Yes, actually moved. As I watched the barbs of rust melt into a chain, while the teddy bear pulled its guts back in, and Screaming Pony's face bulbed to the surface. Our eyes met red on pink. She gave a little smile and shrugged. Ha! Beat that for cutie mark. Mine moves. I didn't want to beat that. I'd rather die than beat that. You win, I replied softly. I shut up for the rest of the flight. I wasn't going to say one single word of complaint right now. There was the worst things than flying. Rose's funeral was something of an aberration. Few ponies actually left bodies to be buried when they came to chapel. The sentry beams turned all pilgrims into ash. Still, she left Thorn behind as I asked Priest if he would allow it. I hadn't expected any pony else to be here. To my surprise, the entire town attended. The Crusaders marched out in mass to support Thorn, and I suspected that for them. This was a service for the lost parent as well. The hooful of adults remained in the back. Lunakai looked to the right at home, in her back lace. After my fight in Stable Tech R&D building, I limped as badly as P-21 as he walked out of the field. Rampage was not in attendance. I could have asked his permission. She might have come. Of course, this was the moment when the clouds started to threaten rain. Well, cold couldn't get much worse. Priest stepped to the sheet wrapping Rose's body, bowing his head respectfully for a moment before speaking softly, clear voice. We all have a journey in our lives, a path to walk, a road to take. Each of us walks that road in our own way and at our own pace, sometimes alone if we're lucky, sometimes with others if we are lucky. The frozen cold surround thorn nudged her gently, reminding her that she wasn't alone. She was a crusader now. The road may be dark, it may be hard and painful, and all too frequently it is cut short by another. We walk these roads we are able when whether with vigor and excitement or heavy load, but we all walk. Rose's road had come to an end like so many do in the hoof. It was not a noble road, but while there was blood of others upon it, there was also a virtue, a love for a daughter, to wish to keep her protected and safe. So if someone will speak of the dead, I'll let them do so, and they past and are not present. I'll bring cake to your funeral. You mean I get one? Sweet. How many lives have I ended that I never gotten this opportunity? Had air duct and vent received one? Where was the funeral for Scoodle? For those 40 nameless foals? For Tumbleweed and 11 zebras? Where were the kinds of words for U-21? For Vanity? For Gorgon? For Daves? I did not want to die alone and forgotten. Your road is at an end, Roses. Rest in the embrace of Celestia Luna. Let the goddess receive you with her peace and mercy. We bowed our heads, and the 6 unicorns, myself included, reached out with our magic as one and lowered her down into the earth. Assembled ponies shuffled in by medley, dropped in a poem or a note. Priest set the drawing of thorn upon the stained linen. Charity laid 2 bottle caps beside her. Glory a feather, me 2 of the little golden flowers. The young earth ponies and then took whatever spade they had and started to fill in the dirt. Harpica laid beside Thorn, holding her close until her dried and desiccated wing, with the air having done this many times for fall. Deciduous like held silver bell closely. The overcooked ghoul nuzzled the jagged scars on the filly's brow as the dirt piled up. Thorn began to sob, "Mama, Mama!" Then a second later she wailed, "Wampage! Wampage!" I felt myself start to shake. I was already crying, but I had to hold it together. There was some last part. Glory suggested P-21 had to agree. How could I not? Slowly I lifted the contrabass from its case and I stood on my hind legs. You hold it like an earth pony. I rubbed my cheek on the cool wood and whispered softly, "Please don't let me mess up." Priest sheet music floated before me. I levitated the bow to my hoof, pinched it behind my fetlock, and then dragged it slowly across the strings. As the contrabass sad notes rose over the sound of spades, it was joined by a violin. I looked at Charity in amazement, the filly giving me a grudging little nod as the music rose from her glowing horn. I still didn't like her, but for this there were more important things, what I liked or disliked. Priest calmly added the notes from a deeper stringed instrument. I don't know what adagio for strings meant, but as the music rose and fell, rising and falling, I could only feel my own disgust and diseased heart trying to lift with it. And it hurt. Oh, how it hurt. It didn't matter if I cried. The rain was falling now. Higher, higher, just a little further, the instrument seemed to say. Higher! Silence. I hung my head as we played the last few chords, my heart starting to beat once more in my chest. I don't know what magic let me through all that. But when that last note died, we were left with only a hissing rain and a muddy pile of dirt, and the piece of wood that simply marked "Roses."
Most ponies being smarter than me know get out of the rain, and this time I was at least clever enough to follow them. In the post office was about a mournful celebration of the Crusaders talked about fallen friends and lost family. There were tears, but there was just enough smiles. This was a funeral for far more than just roses. It was a funeral for Scoodle, and for every pony who had died yet was remembered. It was for the nameless Dashite, for those infected farmers, for Hoss and Granny Smith, and Macintosh and Marauders, and Maripony, and all the fallen marauders. I limped over to the lace-veled Lunakai. So, goddess. The goddess isn't here right now, Lunakai replied in a low tone near scorn. I was astonished. I heard the. She could not bear to be here right now. She's ignoring me and distracting herself with inconsequential thoughts of the others. Look at the alicorn, I frowned. Not sure if I was upset at her or her goddess. I thought the goddess was supposed to care. They are. They're not supposed to die either, but they do. Excuse me? She said as she rose and walked into the bathroom. There was a purple flash under the door when I peeked and she was gone. Stepping out, I saw P-21 and Glory standing apart. Their pair didn't seem to associate with the Crusaders as well as I did. I looked at Charity, and she gave a look back at me. The truce would last a little longer. Lunakai has gone somewhere. P-21 frowned at me and shook his head. I don't trust it. We don't know what it can do. Glory scowled at him, probably for his choice of pronouns. Well, you can add disappearing to the list, and wings, and unicorn magic. Telepathy, Glory added absently. Am I uncomprehended? Stared, she rolled her eyes. She talks inside our heads, Blackjack. Ever noticed how you can hear her no matter how noisy it is? Yes. Yes, but it hadn't occurred to me that it was because of her words could skip straight past my ears and into my brain. But that was definitely good to know. She could talk in my head, though that did make me wonder what else she could do. I drifted through the Callan a bit more, and I bumped into the Harpica. The dusty ghoul looked at me in worry. Oh, Blackjack! Have you seen Thorn anywhere? I brought her inside, but she disappeared, and the rain's getting worse. Oh, the master will be so upset if I lose track of one. She fretted, forgetting that her master was the one who had killed Thorn's mother. I sighed. I'll see if I can find her, I said softly, fearing that if I had to tear her from her mother's muddy grave. Oh, please, please don't make me do that, I sighed, mane itching from all the damp. I need a bath, a hot bath. I stepped outside, coughing and spitting up more phlegm. I needed a few days' recovery, and I wasn't getting it. Even with the bullet holes healed, I had probably could hobble along. Pretty soon I'd be as bad as P-21. Slowly scanned the town with my EFS was bare. She might have been in one of the houses, but I'd have to go into each one. The cooler blue colors of the Delta pitbuck seemed to conspire with the rain, to make this as gloomy as possible. I looked towards Rose's grave and felt relieved and saddened no pony was there. I sighed and coughed again, wanting to go inside. If Thorn was like me, she'd probably want to be alone. A tiny pink pony inside my head smacked my brain and pointed something on the road. A tiny rain-soaked rag. A horn puppet. No. Thorn wasn't like me. She still had some pony to go to. I ran to the puppet as I saw the lavender filly running towards the bridge. I forgot about my cold and shivery body. I ignored the aching legs as I started to run, and I yelled into the rain for her to stop. Had one of the Crusaders told her about the bridge? She'd be with her mother on the other side? There was another pony on the bridge. A pony caught her in her limbs and held her as a Rampage, missing her armor, just held her in her hooves as Thorn sobbed horribly into her shoulders. I stopped, lungs burning, legs feeling as they were about to break. Her cutie mark seemed still and resting blendingly into the image of a teddy bear. Shh, it's all right. Rampage, Thorn sobbed with her close. Shh, it's okay, she said as she held her. I struggled to tell Thorn to step away, for all three of us to return together. Don't make me shoot her in front of you. My eyes met Rampage. I jumped into sets, toggling 3 magical bullets. My useless little exhaust horn let out animatic flicker and went dark. Her teddy bear melted away. We'll never hurt again. The rain hissed as a crunchy pop filled the air. It's okay, Rampage softly to the bloody mass of bony equines. Personally, I'd like to thank you. On behalf of me, it took a good amount of time to make this, even though it was just half a chapter. This was incredibly long for a half a chapter. It was really hard working around all the background noise I've had around my house and just everything. Thank you to the faithful followers or subscribers, whatever you want to call it, for sticking with me and bearing with me through the long process of my recording. I know a lot of you have been anxious in reading this. But remember this, it's the first recording I've ever done. Don't be so harsh on me. I mean, like, seriously, you can't say, oh, this one sucks. Well, hello, my first time. Anyways, back to the point. Well, thanks to the ones that stayed with me. If you like more of this, subscribe and like the video. The more likes I get, the more likelihood I am intended to make more chapters. The more chapters, the happier everyone else who's reading this is. But you can follow along on your whatever you're reading it from. I did have to skip a few parts, like just not dialogue, just out of screen contents, like just what they're saying. Like if it was like, oh, in a harsh tone, I would just say that as a harsh tone. I had a bit of a trouble with the applebot situation. It was hard to speak in the accent while getting the robotic voice to actually make it sound like it was the same. But anyways, I'm thinking of probably running a side series too. Besides just Fallout Equestria, I'll probably be recording another book. I've gotten a request for Project Sunflower, or whatever that one is called, by a person who commented on my previous video. So I might just be running through that one real quick since it's a short book. I'll probably go one day I'll record this, the next day I'll record that. If you got any others, just send me a message through here or through whatever. I don't know. You need my email, whatever. Alright, so when you want to know, what you want to know is if I'm going to make more. Of course I'm going to make more. I mean, you kidding? This is like my all-time favorite book. Well, anyways, I'll let you guys get back to whatever you're doing. This is Psychoshy signing off. Goodbye, Equestria. P.S. End the video here, or if you would like, I'll probably just put a music behind this if you want to just stick around and listen to it. If you want to just end the video, I don't mind. I had a little bit of trouble with the editing because every time I do, it would mess up everything, and it'd take like 3 hours to fix it again. And then I'd try to do it again, and take another 3 hours to fix it. Well, anyways, I'll probably just put a song behind here just so you can look and or just listen in. So, yeah. Goodbye.